I reached East Briar on a cold, colorless April morning in 1888, the kind of morning where the fog never lifts, only sinks deeper into your bones. By the time I climbed down from the cart, my boots were soaked through, and the skin on my palms was rubbed raw from clinging to the side rails during the long night ride. But I had nowhere else to go. Not after Mama died last winter. Not after the landlord locked up the cottage and left me to fend for myself. So when I saw the posting nailed to the parish wall, girls 14 and up needed matchwork meals and lodging provided. Apply at East Briar Works. My hands shook as I tore it free. People said the East Briar Match Factory offered 3 things: heat, wages, and beds. That was more than I'd had in weeks. The foreman didn't even bother asking my name. He only looked at my hands, turning them over like he was inspecting a cut of meat, then barked, "Tamsin, table 7, Daisy'll show you." Daisy was small and wiry, moving like she'd been raised in soot. She didn't smile, no one did. She handed me a wooden tray of thin sticks and a tin of thick, pale paste. "Dip and twist," she muttered, "fast as you can, but not too much of the white. Burns your lungs." I didn't ask what the white was. I figured I'd find out soon enough. That first shift lasted 14 hours. I counted each one by the sharp toll of the old bell in the yard, 1 chime every hour. No more, no less. Like a reminder that the day belonged to the factory, not to us. 12 of us worked at table 7, all girls. None older than 20. Their faces were washed out, not just from dust but from something deeper, like the world had taken the color out of them long before I arrived. And their lips, God help me, their lips weren't right. Dry, cracked, and a few, especially the quiet ones, had a faint, sickly glow in the hollow of their lower jaws, like a candle burning behind thin skin. I told myself it was the gaslights playing tricks. The factory had no windows. Shadows did strange things when you were bone-dashed tired. At supper, I sat alone until Daisy thumped down beside me, metal bowl clattering, boiled cabbage and bread hard enough to break a tooth. She spoke without looking up. "Don't talk to Nellie or Lizzie or anyone from table 4. Why?" I asked. She lifted her eyes, grey dull, like a sky that never clears. "Because they're on the list." "What list?" She only shook her head and shoved more cabbage into her mouth. That night in the dormitory I couldn't sleep. The mattress reeked of damp straw and something rusty old blood. Maybe. Around me a dozen girls tried to cry without making noise. Sometime near midnight I saw it. Across the room, Lizzie, the one from table 4, shifted in her sleep, turning her back to the wall. For a single flicker of a moment, her mouth opened just slightly, and the inside glowed, like someone had placed a tiny lantern behind her teeth. A faint, wavering, greenish light. She didn't stir, didn't seem to feel a thing. I hid under my blanket, pressing a hand to my chest to quiet the shaking. In the morning I asked Daisy if she'd seen it too. She didn't deny it. She only said, "Some girls light up before they go, some don't. You'll see." I didn't understand what she meant by go, but I would. By the end of my 3rd day, I'd learned 2 truths. First, your fingers never stop aching, not even in sleep. Second, the dipping paste, thick, chalky, sweet-smelling, coats everything. It works its way under your nails and into the soft skin between your knuckles. No matter how you scrub, no matter how hard I scrubbed, the white clung to me like a second skin. And the dust, God, the dust was everywhere. It drifted through the air like colorless snow. It coated our trays, our hair, our lips. You could taste it with every breath. It settled in the folds of your eyelids. The girls called it angel powder. Some claimed it made you dream strange things. Others swore it stopped your dreaming entirely. On the morning of the 4th day, Maura collapsed. She'd been working at the far end of table 7, faster than the rest of us. Tall, quick-handed, with a braid so tightly bound it looked like a noose running down her back. One moment she was chatting about her sister in Southport, and the next she stumbled, knocking her tray to the floor. Everything froze. The paste splattered across the brick, hissing faintly. Then Maura began to cough, dry at first, then wet and ragged. She bent over, trembling, and that's when we saw it. Not spit, not bile, white foam, bubbling up from her mouth and soaking into her apron exactly like the paste from the tins. Someone screamed. The foreman stormed in within seconds, not to help her, but to move her. 2 men in dark coats dragged her away like a sack of grain. Her feet left pale streaks across the dust-caked tiles. By lunchtime, a new girl sat in her place. I asked Daisy where they'd taken Maura. "To the nurse." She muttered. "What kind of nurse?" Her answer was barely a whisper. "The kind with keys." That night, in the dim glow of the dormitory candle, Daisy rolled up her sleeve and slowly turned her arm toward me. A pale green shimmer ran along the underside of her forearm, just beneath the skin. It gleamed softly when she moved, like the glow of moss on old gravestones. "I breathed 3 weeks," she said. "Started with the gums, then the rash, then this. Does it hurt?" "Only when I laugh." We sat in heavy silence. Then, just before she snuffed the candle, she leaned close enough that I felt her breath. "There was a girl here named Bridget Crane," she whispered, "the first to glow all over. They say she laughed in her sleep long after her jaw fell off." I stared at her, waiting for a smile. A sign she was teasing, but Daisy's face never changed. She pinched out the flame, leaving me alone with the dark and her words. Bridget Crane. I began hearing her name everywhere after Maura disappeared. Not spoken aloud, but carried in murmurs between shift bells, scratched in chalk near the wash basin. Once, I spotted it carved under a stair. Be conjugul mu yoitocentus yoitentioit. The first to smile too long. I asked Daisy about her again on the 7th night. We were peeling off our work dresses in the freezing washroom, steam curling from the rusted pipes as though the building itself were trying to breathe. Daisy stared into the mirror as she spoke, though not at her own reflection. They say she worked at table 4, before my time. Quiet, polite, always on shift. She paused. She started glowing early. Teeth first, then the lips. She laughed when the doctor came. Not mad, just like something tickled her. They said she couldn't stop. Her mouth split to the ears before it was over. Daisy finally turned, face pale and solemn. They say she bit her own jaw off at the hinge, like something was crawling behind it, and she needed it out. I nearly That's not possible. She shrugged. They say Mr. Camp had her taken to the lower room, near Furnace B. Furnace B, I'd heard of it too. No one used it anymore. The floorboards near that corner were always warm, though the fires beneath had been extinguished years ago, and the door beside its thick iron-banded rusted keyhole. No handle was the same door I'd passed the night I arrived, the one I'd heard whispering behind. You're exhausted, I told myself. You're making nightmares out of shadows. But the next day, when I walked down the southern corridor to collect fresh paste tins, something stopped me cold. A trail, a thin white streak, like paste, dragged by a bare heel, leading from the back hall straight to the locked door near Furnace B. I didn't follow it. Not then, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Asterisk that night, while the other girls slept, I opened the drawer of the nightstand beside my bunk. Inside, someone had carved a list of names into the wood. The grooves darkened with soot for clarity. Violet Gray, Elsie Merrin, Bridget Crane, Maura Hale, and beneath them, T. Asterisk. I stared at those initials. They were mine. Ellie Tamsin. Someone before me. Maybe someone who had watched me believed I was next. The door near Furnace B had no handle, no sign, no knocker. Only a thick iron keyhole rimmed with rust and soot. But after you noticed it once, you couldn't unsee it. It drew your eyes like a missing tooth in a smile empty wrong. Impossible to ignore. On the morning of the 9th day, I walked that corridor again. I wasn't supposed to. Only maintenance workers went that way. But I'd volunteered to return an empty tin tray to the furnace room. A simple errand. 5 minutes at most. I moved quickly, but my steps slowed as I approached the door. No sound came from behind it. Only a steady warmth radiated through the brick and something else. A scent, not smoke, not sulfur. Something sweeter. Sickly sweet. Like meat soaked in molasses and left to rot. It clung to my nostrils long after I returned to the line. That night in the dormitory, I asked Daisy outright, "What's behind that door?" She didn't pretend not to know which one. She just kept picking at the frayed hem of her sleeve. "Don't ask that," she muttered. But they took Bridget through it, after her jaw, and Violet when she started coughing green. I froze. Violet Gray, the name from the list carved in my drawer. Daisy's mouth tightened. She kept a journal, she said quietly. Pages and pages. Said she was writing everything down for when someone finally asked. Hid it in the attic crawl space under the old bed frame. Why didn't anyone turn it in? She disappeared before she could. My breath hitched. Daisy nodded slowly. She was the third they took through that door. I saw it. 2 men in coats like chimney sweeps, one holding her arms, the other carrying a sack. Cold rippled through me. "No one says anything," Daisy whispered. "They don't have to. Everyone here knows the rules. You work until you glow, then you leave. And if you glow too much, you don't come back." That night, after curfew, sleep refused to come. The air in the dormitory was thick and sour. Every so often, a wet, gurgling cough rose from the far end of the room. Finally, barefoot and silent, I slipped from my cot and crept toward the stairwell at the end of the corridor. Asterisk. The attic door was locked as I expected, but the wood paneling above the old linen shelf was loose enough to complain under my fingers when I pressed it. I eased it back. Dust, cobwebs, splinters. And under a broken tile, I saw it a cloth-bound journal, soft with age. Initials faintly scratched into the cover. V.G. My hands shook as I opened it. The pages crackled, cramped handwriting crawling across them. Names, dates, symptoms, and finally, a last entry, scrawled in a hurried, uneven hand. Asterisk. They say it starts in the teeth, but that's not true. It starts in the breath. When the white gets into your blood, the light finds you, and when it finds you, it stays. I saw my own eyes glowing in the window last night. I think I have 3 days left. I won't go through that door. I won't let them take me down there. I closed the journal and pressed it hard against my chest. Violet had known what was behind that door, known enough to choose disappearing over facing it. I read the rest of her entries hidden beneath my blanket, shielding the stub of a candle inside my cupped palms. The flame was weak, but I didn't need much light to feel the weight of her words. The early pages were careful, methodical, like she was conducting an autopsy on herself. She tracked shifts, symptoms hour by hour, nosebleeds, gum blisters, bones that ached like they were dissolving. She wrote how some girls' lips began glowing only after they fell silent, how their skin thinned behind the ears until the veins shimmered like threads of moonlight. But the deeper the entries went, the more frantic they became. Tonight they took Elsie, she screamed, but no one helped. They said fever, but she glowed bright like a match left burning too long. They waited until we were all asleep. She begged, then she went quiet. The next page was half-torn. Mr. Kemp watches at meals. He notes who isn't hungry. The hunger leaves you last before the light takes hold. It's not starvation, it's replacement, like the glow is feeding on something. I swallowed hard, reading on. I hid in the supply closet past midnight. I heard them dragging something up from the cellar. Not a body, something heavier. It clinked. It rattled. Then the smell sugar and bone dust. My stomach turned. The old girls talk about the white feast. Once a month something is fed below. The light doesn't just kill it. The body glows brightest in its final hour. That's when it's harvested. Harvested. The word pulsed like rot in my mind. The last entry was different from all the others. Broken, slanted, shaking. Night 21. My mouth burns. My teeth ache. I smile even when I don't want to. My breath leaves smoke in the mirror. They say the light is beautiful, but I think it's hungry. I won't go through that door. I won't glow for them. If I have to, I'll burn the light out of me before they can use it. 5 pages after that were blank. I wrapped the journal in an old linen rag, hid it beneath my mattress, and tried to breathe. But Violet's last lines clung to my skull. I smile even when I don't want to. I'll burn the light out of me. This wasn't disease. It wasn't poison. It was ritual. By morning, my pulse still hadn't settled. Mr. Kemp watched us file into line, hands folded neatly behind his back. He wasn't looking for beauty or obedience. He was scanning for luminescence, and for the first time, a thought rose in me like bile. Maybe this isn't a factory. Maybe it's a farm. And we're not workers. We're crops. It began with Mora's hands, or what was left of them. She returned on the 12th day. No announcement. No explanation. She simply appeared at the end of table 7, head bowed, sleeves rolled. Her skin looked stretched too thin, as if it were about to tear. Her fingers twitched even when still. When the overhead lamp flickered, her palms glowed. They shouldn't have brought her back, Daisy whispered. What do you mean? She's past the quiet stage. They never bring them back after that. That night, just before curfew, the gaslight sputtered, hissed, and died. Darkness swallowed the dormitory, and then we saw them, shapes, 4, maybe 5 girls near the washroom door still. Watching, their faces were shadowed, but their mouths, God, their mouths shone pale, ghostly, lips opening and closing like fish gasping behind glass. One girl's eyes were glowing soft pools of greenish white, empty and bottomless. No one screamed. No one moved. We all knew the rules. If you see someone glowing, you don't talk. If they reach for you, you pretend to sleep. If they speak, you don't answer. You don't listen. The light gets into their words, Daisy whispered later, into their thoughts, and if you let it near, it remembers your name. I stared at her. What happens when they fully glow? She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled a small flannel-wrapped pouch from beneath her mattress. Inside was a tooth human, the root still stained with fresh blood. It emitted a faint white radiance, like moonlight trapped inside bone. I pulled it when my gums started to burn, she said. It's slower now, but it didn't stop. And Mora, I whispered. She's past the quiet stage. What comes next? The harvest spark, Daisy murmured. When a girl glows too strong, too fast, they take her, and the light burns out of her all at once. Like a match. Can she come back? No. Mora lasted 2 more days. Then the men came. Heavy boots, slow steps, 2 sets. I crept to the end of the corridor and hid behind the half door. Through the slats, I saw them, outsiders in dark coats, faces rigid, eyes empty. They carried Mora between them. Her mouth glowed like a lantern beneath frosted glass. Her fingernails flickered like sparks. She hummed as they dragged her past. They took her to the southern corridor, the door near Furnace B. The long iron key glinted. The lock screeched. The door opened. And the smell rolled out. Sickly sweet. Sugar cooked too long. Blood-rotting hay. The men carried her inside. Kemp whispered something soft, reverent. Not English. Let the light be fed. Let the breath be taken. The door shut. I remained frozen behind the crates, shaking so hard I could hardly crawl back to bed. I climbed into bed and lay shaking under the covers, heart pounding like a trapped bird. By morning the bundle was gone. The furnace room smelled of pine oil and ashes to clean, as if someone had tried too hard to scrub away something that couldn't be scrubbed at all. And near the old storage shelves, a new mark had been carved into the brick, a matchstick drawn upside down, burning from both ends. We went in on a Sunday. No work, no overseers, no carts creaking in the dark, just the slow, sleeping breath of a factory pretending to dream. It was past 2 a.m. when Edith lifted the latch to the maintenance hall. Daisy had stolen the backup keys 2 days earlier from the belt of a drunk foreman asleep near the latrines. We didn't speak, just nodded. 3 of us, me, Daisy, Edith. We tied vinegar-soaked rags around our mouths. Edith swore it might help with the air. Daisy carried a broken wrench like a weapon. I held Violet's journal inside my coat, pressed tight against my ribs like a relic. The key slid into the iron door beside Furnace B as if it had been waiting. It clicked once. The hinges groaned open. The heat hit first, not a fire's heat, but the warmth of something sealed too long. Ancient, thick wrong. We descended a narrow stairwell lined in damp stone. It twisted deeper than any cellar we knew existed, 3 stories at least. The lower we went, the more the smell returned. That 6-feet rot layered with copper and candle wax. At the base, a chamber. No windows, no torches, yet glowing. A faint green light seeped through cracks in the brick source, impossible to see. It pulsed softly like something old and breathing behind the walls. A stone table stood in the center. I knew it was a table only by shape. Long, rectangular, dark-stained at the edges. 4 iron loops were bolted at the corners, restraints rusted thin from use. On the far side, a shelf of tools, pliers, clamps, a rusted dental brace for turning teeth. But it was what rested in the corner that made Daisy drop the wrench. A jawbone, charred and still wet, nestled atop a scorched cloth like an offering. And in that dim, haunted light, it glowed. Not the bone, not the blood. Asterisk.
The teeth. 6 remained intact, each shimmering faintly like tiny lanterns. Edith leaned close. Her voice cracked. This is what they're after. I moved toward the wall. Dozens of markings had been carved into the stone, names, dates, symbols from no language I knew. One symbol had been circled 3 times in something dark. Daisy was trembling. We need to go. We've seen enough. But Edith wasn't finished. She pointed to the shelf. Take one, she whispered. A tooth. Something they can't deny. I hesitated, then stepped forward and lifted the smallest molar from the jaw. It was warm in my hand. Too warm. I wrapped it in linen and shoved it deep into my pocket. The glow seeped through the cloth. As we turned to climb back up the stairwell, I looked once more at the stone table. A girl had died there. Not once. Not twice. Again and again. And East Briar had built its fortune on their light. The factory changed after that Sunday. It breathed differently, quieter by day, heavier by night. Mr. Camp watched us with new eyes. So did the men in coats. During breakfast, Elsie from table 3 was dragged away. No warning, no explanation. And on the 17th night, they locked the doors. Not the dormitory doors. Not the factory gates. All of them. It began with the lights. Gas lamps flickered after supper, then choked out one by one as if smothered by invisible hands. The pipes hissed, then went silent. The halls dimmed to pitch. We thought it was just another failure. The system was old. But then came the bolts, heavy ones, groaning into place. Iron sliding into iron. Locks being latched from the outside. By the 8 o'clock buzzer, we realized no one was coming back. No guards. No watchmen. No food. No escape. Daisy tried the window latch, welded shut. Edith pounded the door until her knuckles split. Nothing moved. Then we heard them, voices from the lower levels. Not shouts. Not commands. Whispers rising from beneath the floorboards. Soft at first. Rhythmic. Almost melodic. Then more joined, 2, then 4. A language without words, like chanting through cracked teeth. And then the glowing began. Not the gas lamps. The girls point one by one. Shapes in the dark began to glimmer. A shoulder here, a cheekbone there. Gums lit like coals when mouths opened in sleep. I clutched Violet's journal and felt my own breath tighten, because I saw it too. On me. The faint outline beneath my nails. Behind my eyes. Like something had taken root. Across the room, Edith stood frozen, staring at the girl in front of her. Nellie, maybe. The girl swayed, glowing from head to toe. Her eyes were gone, not removed, just replaced. Twin spheres of dull green fire. She opened her mouth and whispered, "Let there be light." And the others answered. Every glowing girl turned toward the center of the room, compelled by the same silent command. Let it feed. Let it burn. Let it remember. Edith grabbed my arm, nails digging in. We're not making it till morning. They say the fire began near Furnace B. But that's a lie. Because I was in the dormitory when it started, barefoot, heart hammering, surrounded by glowing mouths whispering things I couldn't understand. Edith clutched my hand. Daisy sobbed without sound. Then it happened. Light, not glow. Not phosphor. Flame. Real flame blooming under the doorway like a sunrise in reverse. Floorboards hissed, cracked. Smoke seeped in through the walls, thick and sour, and the glowing girls began to scream. the sound was not human. Not fear. Rage.as if the fire had interrupted a ritual mid-summoning. As if the flames were betrayal, not destruction. One by one they fell, thrashing, not burning, combusting. Their bodies flared, then collapsed to ash in seconds. Edith shoved me toward the window. We get out, now. It's sealed. She didn't answer. She grabbed a wooden stool and smashed it against the glass. Once. Twice. Spiderweb cracks. Smoke poured in. I saw the yard, black, the sky flinging embers like snow. The east wing was in full blaze. Daisy climbed through first. Then me. Then Edith. We ran, past the chapel shed, past the supply carts, over fences, through ditches, until the factory shrank to a silhouette behind a trembling curtain of orange flame. We didn't stop until dawn. The town woke to sirens, steamers, shouts. But East Briar Matchworks was gone. The buildings collapsed inward like a dying animal curling in on itself. They said faulty gas lines. They said the girls died in their sleep. But 13 bodies were pulled from the ashes, charred, twisted. 7 had no heads. None were Maura. None were Bridget. None were Violet. Edith and I watched from Durlow Hill as they carried the remains out sheet by scorched sheet. Daisy trembled beside us. They were trying to feed it. She whispered that I didn't ask what I already knew, that we left East Briar behind in smoke and ruin. The papers called it tragedy. The parish called it justice. Ellie Tams, matchgirl, survivor, was called lucky. But I did not feel lucky, not when I coughed up white dust for weeks. Not when my gums peeled like parchment. Not when the skin behind my eyes tingled at night, as if remembering something my mind refused to hold. They let us go. No questions. No trials. No compensation. The factory owners, 3 men from London who'd never stepped on the floor, sent modest sums to families. Newspapers praised their compassion. Workers who burned were forgotten. I returned alone to Durlow. Edith went south. Daisy never left the infirmary. I visited once. She rocked silently, lips moving without sound. In my satchel, wrapped in the hem of my old apron, I carried 3 things.
Violet Gray's journal. Maura Hale's scorched meal token. And a tooth, small. Molar. Still glowing. I buried it behind my mother's cottage beneath the crooked lilac tree, 3 feet deep, wrapped in linen. I said no prayer, because I didn't know whether it was sacred or watching. My glow never came. Violet's words haunted me. Some girls light up before they go. Some don't. Perhaps I had been passed over. Perhaps I hadn't ripened, or perhaps something remembered me. There are nights I wake certain I'm not alone. Not in the cottage. Not in the dark. In me. Like something from the furnace room followed in the smoke and found a place to wait. And on those nights, when the wind howls through the rafters and the hearth dies too quickly, I swear I hear them, the ones who glowed, whispering at the edge of sleep. Let the light feed. Let the light remember. The official inquiry into the East Briar fire began on April 3, 1891, 3 years after the blaze gutted the factory and turned 13 girls to ASH. It lasted 9 hours. Surviving workers were questioned. No mention of the locked doors. No missing girls. No glowing bodies pulled from rubble. The final report was 1 page. Cause: faulty gas main near Furnace B. Casualties: unfortunate but unavoidable. Recommendation: site to be cleared. No further investigation. Case closed. Wax sealed. Filed away. But not everything stayed buried. 1 Examining physician, a junior coroner named Dr. Alton Reeves, kept a journal. It was never submitted, never meant to be read. But after his death, in 1916, his grandson donated the contents of his attic trunk to the Historical Society. Inside, sketches, samples, a thin notebook labeled E.B. Postmortem Anomalies. His notes were written in a slanted, shaking hand. The bones recovered exhibited unusual luminescence and darkness. Not reflective, emissive. The light did not fade. It pulsed. I examined the jaw of subject 4B. Despite complete tissue loss, the molars glowed. Not phosphorus. Not radium. No match in any chart. The marrow of subject 7D was crystallized, not burned. Transformed. No fire burns memory so cleanly, he never signed the last page. Instead, he drew a matchstick burning from both ends, a wide mouth carved in the center, and beneath it a single word, scratched so hard it tore the paper. I.F.L. I fear / I fell / I feel. The rest ripped away. That notebook vanished in 1923. Archivists blamed a flood, But the clerk who processed it, Miss Harriet Bauer, left a letter dated June 12, 1916. I do not sleep well since reading the doctor's notes. I see flickers in the corners of rooms. And last night, something whispered from the matchbox. It used your name. A shopping arcade was built on the site in 1984. Bright colors, glass ceilings, a sandwich shop where Furnace B once stood. Nothing remained, except what lay beneath in 2007. During a foundation retrofit, workers uncovered a cavity sealed under 2 feet of concrete and brick. They expected drainage issues. Instead, they found a box. Oak, unmarked, wired shut. Inside, 14 teeth, molar, incisor, canine, different sizes, different decay, all still glowing. They were sent to a university lab. The teeth contained no phosphorus, no radium, no known luminescent element. One researcher quit after witnessing them glow under sealed vacuum. He would not speak of it again. Beneath the teeth lay a scrap of parchment. Until now, and even as I write this, years removed from the smoke and the screams and the glow that clung to our skin like memory, I feel them stir. A soft trembling in the walls, a pulse beneath the floorboards, a faint shimmer at the edge of vision, like dust rising from a long-shuttered furnace. Names want to be spoken. Names want to be freed. Violet Gray, Gemma Locke, Maura Hale, Bridget Kane, Darcy Rill, Lorna Tate, Nellie Marsh, Ella Tams. Some gone to ash. Some vanished. Some, like me, still walking the world with something unfinished flickering behind their ribs. People say ghosts haunt places. I think the matchgirls learned differently. They haunt silence. For decades, the factory ruins slept beneath the city's feet, smothered in concrete and commerce. Children bought candy where girls once bled from their gums. Shoppers passed beneath skylights that cast green reflections on tiled floors. No one questioned the shadows. No one heard the whispers. Until the box was found. Until the teeth woke. Until someone finally opened what should never have been opened. And now the lights in Briar Center flicker twice before dying. Twice, like the way Violet used to tap the table when she was thinking. The emergency bulbs glow a shade too green, holding color even when the power cuts. Security guards report cold drafts that taste like sulfur and mint, the scent of old matches. Janitors swear the stairwell hums at night, a low, steady tone like breath held too long. Maybe they imagine it. Maybe I imagine it too. But every time I walk past those doors, every time the wind shifts and brushes the back of my neck like fingers still warm from flame, I hear it again. Not a cry, not a warning, a plea. Tell them. Tell them about the teeth that glowed. Tell them about the girls who were too bright to live. Tell them about the fires that were no accident at all. Tell them about the light that fed on bones and labor and silence. Tell them everything we were never allowed to say. So here it is. My last match struck. My last truth burning down to the stick. If someday the lights in Briar Center fail, and the building falls quiet, and you hear soft footfalls pacing just beyond the emergency glow, don't run. Listen, because the matchgirls are still waiting in the dark, hands cupped around the last of their borrowed fire, whispering to anyone brave enough to hear. Let the stories burn. Let the names be remembered. Let the light finally rest.